morning. Welcome to day 60 at Quantum's Liberty. Hello, birdies. Here's your water. This is the DeStress countdown. And today, I hope this day is finding you well. Today on the phone with me, I have Erik from Houston, Texas. Erik is a 16-year-old. His dad works in the Houston Medical Center as a critical care nurse. And so what we were going to talk about today that Erik brought up was something really sad for him and all of his fellow students. There is a very sad, a high school teacher passed away from COVID. And this was somebody that they loved very much. So he wanted to tap on that. We were talking a little bit about what the science says. There's a large conservative community near where he lives. And in his area, it's a little bit more liberal. So the unfortunate thing is that I guess there really needs to be more education about the COVID virus, because perhaps with more education there would be more compassion. Keep on tapping on the karate chop point. And this point does something very interesting inside of our brain. Tapping on this point, it slows down the firing of the neurons to the amygdala. What happens when we have some severe emotional trauma, either from the past that needs to be tapped on so that we can clear and release that energy from our bodies. The EFT, the tapping on these points, is a powerful and breakthrough technology based on science that does let us know that we can release some of these very powerful triggers and not be completely taken over by them. So something that the recent research shows is that when we're tapping on these points, like this point in particular, the karate chop point or the side of the hand point, and if you're in the middle of an argument with somebody, I just put it right behind my back like this, and I can then, instead of being triggered by some of the things that the person might be saying, then instead I can just think about the next best thing to do, because instead of my brain going straight to fight flight, instead the signals they don't go directly to the amygdala. Instead they go to the other four sections of the brain, where then you can think about the next best thing that you need to do. And in Dawson Church's book, The Bliss Brain, he shows some beautiful pictures of this. And this book is The Neuroscience of Remodeling Your Brain for Resilience, Creativity, and Joy. So there we have a picture of the trigger when you are highly emotional and have maybe severe trauma from the past or even in the present. This picture here shows that the stimulus goes straight to the amygdala, where it sends it out to your body to run from the danger. But here, in this one, if you're doing tapping, instead of the signal going straight down to the body and brain, we can keep those oxygen and those neurons firing in the rest of the brain, where you can actually think about the next best thing to do, including having compassion for things that are happening in the world, such as the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic. Now, this is a powerful tool, actually, the issue of compassion. is a huge beneficial thing for our hearts and our brains to become in coherence. And scientists are finding out that the level of compassion that you have for an event, for instance, these, your friends, and having the teacher that all of you love pass away from COVID, because people just don't wear the mask when they're supposed to, because they don't really know what's going on in the hospitals, right? Like your dad knows what's going on in the hospitals, so he can tell you and your friends, this is a big problem. You need to wear your mask, you need to socially distance, you need to wash your hands 20 seconds with soap, because the virus is lipid soluble and that will break down the membrane. So what we will do is we can learn a little bit about compassion and learn a little bit about COVID and what the coronavirus and what kind of things we can do to prevent its transmission. Right now, today, or yesterday, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of England, of the UK, he said that science in the last 5 days has developed or seen a mutant strain of the coronavirus that is 70% more transmissible than what we have developed a vaccine to right now. So we know that the viruses will change and shift, and so what we need to do as a conscious being is change our response when the virus changes. So when the transmissibility is 70% more, as it is found to be last week, then all they have to do is create a lockdown that is more severe and strict, and that will save lives. So, including those of our teachers and the people who work on the front lines. So there were two really powerful studies by Goldman and Davidson, and they looked at brain and heart coherence and what compassion does to our bodies and our brains in respect to creativity and synchronization of neuron firing and the amount of communication in between all four lobes of the brain. And so one thing that they found was compassion had to, it increased the levels of alpha waves in the brain, and in doing that, subsequently other slower low frequency waves were produced. And so in this picture, you can see on this EEG that when in meditation or in a state of compassion, these green bars are the alpha waves, and then up at the top, when alpha is brought more into your life, you produce more gamma. And gamma is the one responsible for feelings of compassion, so we can go the other way too. With compassion, you can create more of the gamma, and that also helps to produce more creativity in the brain. So the brain is communicating fluently, coherently with all areas, and then your creativity just expands phenomenally. The research that they showed was, and this one, it was 2019, and it showed that the brain, the compassion changes the brain waves in meditation. And so that they found that you can attain these states, and this will create a psychophysiological coherence with extended time of creativity. So we'd like to create this. We can do this with tapping. And we're going to tap on the stress from overwhelm. We're also going to tap by reducing we're going to tap on the event that happened, this death of a beloved teacher, and then we will we'll bring into our lives a deserving, a state where more people are in coherence together with how to progress through the pandemic so that things like this don't happen again. And Erik, some of the things that you and your friends can do is to educate as many people as you can about what happened and what you do know as facts based on science, so that the more people that do actually understand and know, including your policymakers, right? You can always write to them every day, and perhaps one day, one time, something will happen where something will get through. Or enough people understand that wearing a mask and shutting down to slow down the transmission rate of the COVID will help to reduce the amount of stress that your dad has in the ICU every day. So one of the things that the teachers did, which was really cool, Erik said that happened last Tuesday, was good trouble, right? And I guess that's based on John Lewis's mom, who died recently, but his mom used to say, now, if you're going to get into trouble, get into good trouble. So the teachers were, they did a walkout on Tuesday in Texas. And I don't know if that happened, I know it was Houston, but I don't know if it happened across the nation, but it was to protest about not having very safe environment so that the teachers can be healthy, as well as the students and grandmothers and grandfathers and families. So today we'll tap on envisioning our radiant health, because we all deserve that. And in doing so, we'll also be having our brain waves and our heart waves, actually, and we'll talk more about that in the future, maybe tomorrow, in a beautiful coherent pattern where we have these lovely gamma waves that are coming into our brains and flooding our brains and bodies with neurotransmitters and hormones that are increasing our immunoglobulins and also lowering our cortisol levels, so that our stress levels will go down even in the face of this really intense time for the pandemic. So let's begin by talking and tapping on, even though we're tapping right now, but we're going to tap and we're going to do the setup statement. Okay, Erik? So we were talking about the setup statement that he would like to do. And so we always start the setup statements, we do 3 of them, and we tap on the karate chop point because that slows the firing to the amygdala, so everything else can get the information, and then our prefrontal cortex will think about the next best thing to do, which is what we want to do. Coherent, not just reacting and running around without mask on and being silly, not paying attention to the science, but doing the right thing, listening to the science and paying attention to it and doing what we have to do to keep each other and ourselves safe and healthy. Yeah. So we're going to tap on healthy, vibrant being. So first thing I want you to do is close your eyes. Imagine yourself in beautiful, radiant health. And you're running around. All your teachers are healthy, and everybody's having a really nice conversation and good time with each other. So this was a coach too. You can imagine yourself running and having all of your professors healthy and having fun with your friends and your professors every day at school. So we're going to tap on imagining that radiant health, and any blockages at all that you have inside of your body. I want you to focus intently on that blockage to having that radiant health. And now, so let's focus very intently on that gap in between having radiant health and where you are right this second. And so I want you to find where that is in your body, what it looks like, what color is it, things like that. But I want you to rate how high is that gap of having that radiant health and what you are right this second. So if there's any resistance at all to saying, I cannot have that radiant health, I want you to rate that number. How big is that resistance and where is it in your body? And you can just write it in the sky, the number and where it is, and then we'll open our eyes and we'll start tapping and say, even though I have this resistance inside of me to radiant health, I deeply and completely love and honor myself, and I accept myself right where I am. Even though I have this resistance to radiant health, and I feel like I cannot have that because I feel such sadness that I can't communicate with everybody and tell them to wear a mask. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have this resistance to radiant health, I deeply and completely honor and respect and have my own back. I forgive myself. I trust myself, and I accept myself exactly as I am. Inside the eyebrow point, this resistance, outside the eye, any and all resistance, under the eye, I feel this anger and resistance. Under the nose, I feel this block inside of me. Chin point, I feel this block running through my body. Collarbone, I feel this resistance to radiant health. Under the arm, I feel this resistance flooding my body and brain. Top of the head, I cannot have radiant health. Inside the eye, I'm really, really worried. Outside the eye, there's all this chaos going on. Under the eye, I know that inside of me, under the nose, I have chaos. Chin point, but I also have clarity. Collarbone point, I have 50-50. Under the arm, I have 50-50 chaos and clarity. Top of the head, right inside of me. Inside the eye, I know that the brain waves outside the eye respond to compassion. Under the eye, which I certainly have. Under the nose, the compassion is inside of me. Chin, and it extends to my teachers, collarbone point, and to my beloveds. Under the arm, I have compassion. Top of the head, and this changes my brain waves. Inside the eye, so that I have more gamma. Outside the eye, and I have less triggering to the amygdala. Under the eye, so that I can think about the next best thing to do. Under the nose, including wearing a mask. Chin point. And educating those who might not know. Collarbone point. Particularly things that are going on in the hospitals. Under the arm, like where my dad works. Top of the head. I can tell people about this. Inside the eye. So that perhaps they'll have compassion too. Outside the eye. And this will create, under the eye, more coherent brain waves. Under the nose. And the coherence, under the chin, helps all four parts of the brain, collarbone point, communicate with one another. Under the arm, I am that person in radiant health. Top of the head. I am walking and talking in radiant health. I am that person in mind, body, and spirit. Thank you so much, Erik. And many, many, many good thoughts coming from my heart to yours and all of your friends as you go through this. This is about the best you can do, is to educate everyone. Thanks for sharing.